Welcome to the WineDown, an afternoon podcast where two techie blokes sit down over a bowl of wine and chat about what's happening in the world of tech. Enjoy while Scott and Nick open up about their week in technology.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the WineDown. I'm here with
Scott.
Hello, Scott. How are you?
Hello, Nick. How are you?
Now, hopefully for the last week, it's a lockdown wind down. Where are we? What are we drinking?
Well, guess what? We're at home, and we're drinking wine. Hey, I've got a bottle of Lumber, the Menzies. This is a fairly new, or actually in this year, the 2016 Coonawarra Cab Sauv. It's actually a nice drop, you know.
Oh, I've got a Petaluma, 2014 Coonawarra from Evans Vineyard. Yes, it's meant to be nice. It is nice, actually.
Interestingly, your Lumber's still putting corks in these bottles.
Wow.
Which is actually a challenge for the younger people of today, some of which are not quite familiar with what to do with one of these.
Yes.
Well, when we were back in pubs, when we acquired a bottle that had a cork in it, the person sat there looking at it going, this will be a challenge.
Yes.
Anyway,
you always put it in your shoe and bang it against a wall.
That's right. But the cork eventually did come out, all 12 pieces of it. Anyway, you got to start somewhere. So today,
I have a bottle of 1976 port, which I believe the cork will be coming out in pieces. But there we go. Anyway, today, yes.
So this week, the Australian CyberSecurity Centre released their security report, annual cyber threat report.
Ooh.
For the last year. Collated all the information, put it into a nice big long PDF file, and said, "Here you go." So I thought I might just cover some of the highlights out of that because there's some interesting data in there.
Why don't you do that? And I'll ask questions because I'm totally unprepared. I haven't read this report yet, so it's going to be enlightening for me as well.
No, there's some good stuff in there. But there's actually more in there than I thought would be. We had a lot of global stats and various things, and you sort of look at how do they relate to what we're doing here, and sometimes it's difficult to break out our specific little bit, but it's interesting. It's interesting.
Oh, cool. So, what are the cliff notes? What are the big highlights? What are the things you went, ooh?
I guess. So let me ask you this: how often do you think in Australia a cyber attack is reported?
Is reported or happens?
No, is reported. And that's a very important differentiation, actually. But this is actually being reported.
I would have no idea. Let's say one a day.
Okay, every 8 minutes.
Whoa! So there's a cyber security incident in this country every 8 minutes.
There is one. There is a report of a cyber security threat, which could be something from anywhere from someone sitting at home going, "I got a virus. Who do I call?" Ringing up the Australian Cybersecurity Centre, right through to a potential attack on a piece of critical infrastructure, somewhere in between those two extremes. So you've got to sort of balance that out a bit. But look, every 8 minutes. And I thought that's interesting. The only thing that I thought was more interesting than that is that it's shrunk from last year, which was every 10 minutes. Now, I didn't think it was every 10 minutes last year. So the fact that it's that in that sort of range and it's continually shrinking sort of says, hey, we've got a bit of an issue here.
That's a huge, just for a second. So that's every 8 minutes, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Somebody's reporting a cybersecurity incident. How big are the associations our government's built to deal with these? That's lots of stuff to work on, right?
Look, it is, and you've got to think about. Well, part of this is it may not be your ringing a person; it could be you're reporting it via the website. and that there's some helpful advice available. Or it could be that it could be very much that you've actually gone in and got a whole team of people involved to help resolve a critical issue. I think that the website is a main source because it actually goes in there and says, hey, here's all this material. Look through here. We can help. But start here. But I thought that was quite good. A lot of focus around COVID-related issues.
Mm-hmm. So here's a question before we dive in, just so I understand. So 61,320-ish reported cybersecurity incidents. If I just pop that maths into my head, 7 an hour.
Nearly, yeah. 67,500 they've said.
Okay. But, I'm doing every 8 minutes, which is 7 an hour times 24 times 365 gives me 61,320. So I'm close, but 67,000. Here we go. So look, I get the metric. It's the right metric. So you've got all these people. What's somebody's expectation when they report a cybersecurity incident? And I understand there's the data breach stuff, but what are people expecting to achieve when they and who is this to? Which agency are people reporting it to? How do they know how to report it? Who's telling them to do this? Well, how does that all come together?
Yeah, so look, the reports do go through to the government cybersecurity centre. There is there's a nice little website for that, and we can post some details about that. But you essentially go up there and you provide details on what's happened, and that is the report. Now, it's going to be, again, sort of a one extreme of people who have no idea about IT going, I've got this virus thing, my computer's running slow, I'm supposed to report this. What do I do? What button do I hit to make it go fast again? That sort of thing. Right up to the team of security specialists going, we've had a serious issue at Blur. This is what it is. This is the virus. This is how do we get around it? What bit of malware are we addressing? Are there known resolutions for this? Can you help? Is this new? What's the impact? Because when you start to get into some of the areas of critical infrastructure, that's not just a report. That's a response team starts to get generated in the government and in the various organisations. And I talk about critical infrastructure because, strangely enough, a quarter of all those reports came from a critical infrastructure-focused firm or organisation.
Wow.
Yeah, now that's interesting. Now I'm not just saying, it's a power plant or it's a whatever. There's a lot of things that could be called critical infrastructure, like most health-related facilities. You would sort of fall into that. A lot of key government areas would fall into that. So it is actually a fairly widespread thing. But when you're talking about a quarter of the events that were reported actually fall under critical infrastructure, I thought, oh wow, that's
fairly huge. Absolutely.
Yeah. So losses.
Yeah.
Reported losses, $33 billion.
$33 billion.
Yes. I don't know, is that tax deductible? That could be interesting. I suppose if you lost it, you didn't really generate it in the first place. Anyway, that would be an interesting sort of thought.
That's average. So you just said that some of these incidents are small, but the average loss per incident is $492,000.
It's a fair bit. It depends on how you structure it. They've actually worked out that the median loss now is around $50,000, $50,600.
Okay, so got lots of really small ones.
It is skewed down that end. But having said that, $50,000 is $50,000. That's a good lunch. So you'd hopefully not.
I don't know where you lunch, Scott. That's like 100 good lunches at the beach club.
A hamburger and a nice bottle of wine in some cases.
Yes, you've got to lower your taste on wine, Scott. Really.
Oh well, but look, it's. This is the whole thing, and what we are seeing, it's showing up in the report, is that the vulnerabilities or the exposure of known vulnerabilities, they're being attacked a lot quicker. So when you get vendors coming out and saying, "Hey, we're releasing a security update. We are aware of this security issue in our code. Here it is. This make sure you upgrade to this level to address this address this issue." People don't necessarily put those updates on fast enough. And the problem is when the vendor comes out and says, here's the known problem, and there's a database of all of it. There's a proper structure for reporting these.
Yep.
You've also got hackers going in there going, oh, vendor X in their software has just declared they're open to this particular problem. Let's go and write some code that targets that problem in that software and see how far we get.
Yes.
A lot of exposure coming from that.
That's fascinating. I had a chat with a customer this week, and a prospect actually. They weren't a customer, and they were saying, "Oh, you're not going to make us update to all the newest stuff, are you? What about the bugs in that?" And I went, "Wow, if that's still your perception, you're so far behind the eight ball. It's quite frightening, because really, from a security point of view, you really should be up with the latest and greatest everything, right?"
Well, that's just it. I mean, it used to be that code was not well tested, and would be all this stuff would be thrown out there, and the public and the companies would be used as the test bed to find out what went wrong, have all the reports come back in, and there's your bug list, which had that mindset of, look, I don't want to be the first one to update. I want a few other people to go through this for a month or two or three or four before I do this, and that way any potential issues with that update will get fixed. But testing competency and testing structures have been a lot more rigorous. Tools are available to automate this stuff. It's difficult to, if you're doing it properly, you've got some fairly robust code going out there. So if you compare that to, I have known security issues that I need to address, I'd rather be on the, look, I'm secure and I run the risk of maybe having a bug, versus,
sure,
well, look, I don't have any bugs I know about, but my data is open for the world to see.
Look, I totally agree. I'm latest and greatest it really is, in today's world of the technologies we're using, is where you want to be.
Well, that's just it. The other thing is, and we'll look at this in a bit more coming in future episodes, but cyber insurance. Mm-hmm. This is sort of also leading to, if you don't update or you don't have the processes and or policies in place to say you are going to update to the latest fixed pack or whatever it is within a certain amount of days or weeks, is your insurer saying, well, you are leaving yourself exposed and you're expecting us to carry that cover? We're either not going to insure you because of that, or we're going to put a massive premium on you because you're a risk.
Absolutely,
we're seeing that already. Insurance premiums are boosting like nothing in the US. They're 3 to 4 times what they were a year ago in some circumstances.
That's super scary, right?
Yeah. Hey, I'll tell you one thing I saw.
Go on.
All the states and territories of Australia, which one do you think had the most reports?
Oh, that's a goodie. I'm going to say the ACT.
Yeah. Tiny, right at the bottom of the list. Hey, it was Queensland.
Wow, Queensland. That surprises me. I would have thought it would be Melbourne or Sydney, because that's where all the commerce happens, or the ACT because that's where all the government happens. But no, it's Queensland. You know, wow.
Queensland, 30%. 30% of the country's reports come from Queensland. Now, to be fair, they don't break that down into what are they, the individual person at home that just turned on a computer for the first time, put the wrong key and downloaded something. And look, we've had this. We get calls from people saying, it said click here, so I clicked here, and now this doesn't work, and something, and blah, 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 blah. Oh, no. Victoria, 29%.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
New South Wales, 18%.
Did you say 18%? 18% for New South Wales. Wow.
1.8. Yes, I thought New South Wales and Queensland's numbers would be reversed in this picture, just based upon the general sort of economic IT.
Yeah, but I think we've got to be careful here, because we've got the mixture of how many people are getting cyber incidents versus how many people are reporting them. Did Queensland have a big advertising blitz saying report your cyber incidents here or something? Well, that's something we might not know.
Or click here for virus and just see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, that's fair. And look, and of course, then you start looking at sectors. Well, the government, 35% of incidents. And that's about 20%, I think it was federal government, and about 15%, very close to those figures, was state and local and council and that sort of thing.
We did say that we did say that, with the Essential 8, there's a bunch of government departments who aren't keeping up with their security requirements.
There are, but they're not. They are and they aren't. From what we're seeing, you get like the majority of the department is, but there's just legacy little pieces here and there now that are the ones holding the stats back.
Yep.
However,
but it's the legacy. It's the legacy bits and pieces which let you down, right?
That's right. It's my 1922 firewall that is the last piece to go. Look, they've actually moved a fair bit along. Even health, which to me has been a very slow mover in security. Not that the need is not recognised, but just because of the systems and things that are tied to pieces of medical equipment. That bit of equipment's supposed to last 10 years and it came with a computer. And the software on there runs. You go click and the medical device works. Well, no one thought of actually updating the security issues in the software along the way.
Yes.
And we got a new dishwasher the other day.
Oh, yes.
And it's Wi-Fi enabled. I thought that's pretty cool. But you know what? The first thing I did, I connected it up to the Wi-Fi. It's got this little app. I connected it to the Wi-Fi and said, and I tried to start doing something. I was going, it's not responding. Okay, that's probably what I expect out of a dishwasher. What happens? But, no. And it pops this message up, performing security update. It was updating the dishwasher's firmware. I thought, really? But, good on the, in this case, Bosch, good on the actual company for providing security updates for their appliances.
Well, I've just done a security update on my vacuum cleaner, so I know those types of things.
Because if anyone broke in, they could clean up?
No. Just because it's on the net, so I've got an app on my phone for the vacuum cleaner, and I can choose to clean the house or not. It's a robotic one, not one of those stand-up ones you have to push because that'd be stupid. But it does it all itself.
Please stand up now. Okay. Anyway,
yes.
So look, government 35%, professional services were around 10%, and that's all scientific or consulting or like accounting, legal, those sort of things. Health 7%. Okay, it's not too bad.
Yep, that's all right.
Education 6%.
Oh, that's good.
Okay. So we'll see where that's heading. But I guess the thing in that is, and this sort of comes back to the security vulnerabilities, when these things come out, patch quickly.
Yes.
Alternatively, don't expose parts of your network to anything, like air gap them.
Yeah, I would say just patch quickly.
Yes, it's a lot easier. Air gapping, by the way, is disconnecting them from external connectivity from the network, from the internet.
Like Facebook did this week.
Yes, they tested that for 6 hours or so, didn't they? It worked very well. They did air gap themselves from the internet.
We talked about that in the Accounting Technology Fireside Chat podcast this morning, so that's just a plug for the podcast.
Well, now they know how long their DR recovery scenario takes.
Yes. 6 hours.
Yeah, that's right. But you know what? You can have systems failing over within seconds. You can have duplicates of infrastructure. You can spend millions of dollars on recovery scenarios. If your DNS goes offline, hey, no one can get there anyway. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Luckily, during it, Trevor said to me, he said, was any data at risk? I went, they were the most secure they've been for years over these 6 hours.
That's right. No one could hack them during that time.
Yes, no data was at risk at all. No data was accessible. Anyway.
That's interesting. So it's an interesting report. It does really throw a few things out there just to say, look, the situation's getting worse, and there's more and more things you have to do to protect yourself. And you've really got to be on top of this. And I guess this sort of comes down to, if you're not really comfortable with this, look, seek out help. Find some IT specialists that can. Most people in the IT industry will be able to put basics in place to be able to help you with things like this. So it's been very interesting reading of this. Even looking at major points they're pushing, patch within 48 hours where an exploit exists. Well, exploits exist as soon as the vendor announces there's an issue.
Yeah, we're 0 day now, so you should be patching immediately. I agree.
Yeah, there's a lot of data in here, and it just jumps out. Canberra was 2%, by the way.
Wow.
Yeah.
The ACT was 2%.
Right above
Well, they
the,
are smaller, but you would have thought there's a bit of a honeypot down there.
Yeah, look, it's interesting. Tasmania was 2% too.
Wow.
So
That's
there's
not a honeypot.
a bit of a mix, but I guess it's but you also get things like online shopping scams and banking scams, and your credit card is expired. Click here, enter your number. That stuff still works.
What it does, because people don't think, right? People are busy and they're not thinking about it, and that's one of the biggest learnings out of all of this is whenever you receive a communication asking you to give up some data, think about it. And I forget, it could have been you. I'm trying to remember who told me. I was chatting about, the people who phone you up and ask you for your personal details. I think we did this in the scams one recently. And people are surprised when I say I'm not giving my personal details to somebody who's just phoned me over the phone. I don't care who you are. Give me a way that I can verify to speak to you. Hardly anybody does that. These people are used to people just answering the phone and giving away details willy-nilly. It's really fascinating.
No, you know what? There is actually a breakdown of the types of threat that have been reported. And there's one interesting factor in there, at least that I thought. Malware.
Yes.
2%.
Wow.
2% of the threats are classified just as raw malware. I've been infected with something and something's happening on my machine. I don't know what's going on. As in like a denial of service or something that's preventing you from doing something.
Yep.
What it is the hacking industry has moved on beyond that point, because if you just want to infect someone and break their machine, there's no monetary return for that.
Yep.
You've really got to get down to it, like fraud. Here we go: shopping, online banking, identity theft, investment, selling of stuff, bulk extortion. That's an interesting one. Romance scams, bullying, harassment. And these are the bulk sort of things that are coming in these days, where there is an ulterior motive or there is an outcome as a result of the attack. So,
it's funny you mention it. I've got a friend who's he's in his 60s and he's single, and every now and then he'll get, quite often, like 3 times a week, he'll get some young lady appear on WhatsApp or whatever he uses and try to get romantically involved. He talks about it. It's quite funny. We follow it, and he goes, "How long do you think before she goes, have you got any investments?" Right, and the big one at the moment has been, I'll set up a cryptocurrency wallet for you. And you can put your money in it and get some crypto, because obviously you're in your 60s, you wouldn't know how to do that technical thing. And of course they walk away with all of your money.
Right. Now, I had a couple of random things reach out to me on WhatsApp and a few just looking at what's up there. But, stage one, if you're going to go and try to scam someone, at least spell their name correctly. Like their first name. And going, really?
Sorry, snot.
It's that sort of thing going, really? Did you even read this before you sent it out? And what classifies that as an appropriate use of time to, I don't know, it's frustrating. If you're going to do something, you must do it well.
Yeah, absolutely. My friend was telling me he gets ones where he'll see them, and some of these apps tell you how close they are to you. And there'll be someone within like 100 kilometers one day and like 2,000 kilometers away the next day. And during lockdown, you actually can't do that. And they're just getting close to whoever they're targeting, right?
Well, there you go. Okay, so yeah, it was an interesting report, and basically sort of reinforces what's going on.
So what are the actions? What should people do about this type of thing?
Yeah, so there's a few things. Like we know about the Essential 8.
Yep.
And it's not a difficult list. It can be time consuming, and there can be a fair bit of work in there, especially if you've got a bigger network and a lot to do. But it's not what you call an overly complex list.
Hey, I've got an interesting comment just came in on the when you were talking about misspelling names. So Chrissy said, couldn't part of the misspelled name be to filter out people who are less likely to fall for it? And that's actually a really important point, because people who will fall for it, you don't want to target them. You want to target the absolute idiots who won't fall for it. So I think that's a really clever comment.
Okay, so instead of going back with something like "Dear Friend," you can go "Dear Fiend" and see what happens. Or I don't know. Yeah, interesting. Go for put out a scam with the lowest common denominator and just see who responds. Because if you do respond to the lowest common denominator, you must think there's some good. Yeah, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
we know about the essential aid out there. The Australian cyber.gov.au has got some great material up there. Yeah, look, it's a bit of reading, but it's an investment in time in this area is not necessarily a bad investment.
For sure. And like anything, like if you don't know what you're doing, hire an expert. And that's from everything to accounting and tax and medicine and technology and all sorts of things. There's once a poem which ends with "'Tis the duty of the wealthy man to give employment to the artisan." But it's also important to get expertise where you know it, and don't assume you know everything, because you really don't.
Exactly, especially in the health area.
Yes, go and ask the doctor. That's awesome. Cool. All right. So follow-ups is come talk to somebody who knows what they're doing. That sounds like a super idea. And any other conclusions, Scott? Or should I say snot?
Exactly. You should assume that these are going to be ever increasing. There's too much return going on. If you look at some people sent some emails and, got $33 billion in return.
Yep.
It's not as if this is going to go away tomorrow. I know I'm simplifying it, but the concept is it's very easy to put the scams out there, and the monetary returns are significant. They will still be around. Just be aware of what you're doing. Put basic security controls in place. Look at your essential aid. Look at how to protect your networks. Don't be exposed. No one's going to think any worse of you if you eventually get hacked, but you've got all these controls in place, and it was really obscure how you got in there. But if you don't do anything, you just put your laptop on the internet with no firewall, no anything else, and 10 minutes later someone attacks you. You think, well, really? What are you doing? Of course. So, secure yourself, secure your networks, patch.
Yeah, don't multi-factor authentication and don't click on stuff, I think.
That's right.
We might have said that before. That's awesome. Cool, Scott. Well, that's been awesome. We're kind of up to time. That's been the WineDown this week, CyberSecurity Awareness Week. So hopefully you're aware now. Look, and if you are watching live, or you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, or you're listening on Amazon or iTunes or all the millions of other places you can listen, please drop us a like, drop us a subscribe. We really appreciate that. There's another comment coming in: train, and train some more to your users. That's an important point if you're running a business, is make sure your staff are trained and up to date. But anyway, before I go on, make sure you like and comment. We really appreciate it. Leave a comment. We'll definitely, if there's something you'd like us to talk about, we certainly will talk about it. Leave us a like. That helps the algorithms. And subscribe and hit that little bell, and then you'll be notified when we release a new version of this.
I'll tell you one other thing, just on the train thing. Also, when you're sending out training campaigns to test and educate users, tell them when you stop sending out the campaign so they don't click on it just to see what happens.
That's a good idea. Yes, I hadn't thought about that.
Yes. And so I always wonder what happened. I know nothing's going to happen because it's a training campaign. What actually happens when I click on these things? What happens when I put details in? All of a sudden you realise the campaign ended 4 days ago and this is someone real that you just gave credentials. Anyway.
Cool. Yes, no, awesome point. Scott, thank you very much.
Thank you, Nick. It's been lovely as always.
It's been lots of fun. I hope you all have an absolutely awesome day. Thanks for being with us today. Thanks, Scott.
Thanks. Bye.
See ya.